Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always. And today we are joined by Sasmito Adibowo, a seasoned software artisan with a flair for innovation. Fluent in over 10 computer languages, Sasmito has a proven track record of turning ideas into reality. From crafting AI-driven microservices to pioneering smart city mobile apps, his expertise is vast and varied. With 8 US patents under his belt and a self-published technical book, Sasmito's contributions to the tech world are undeniable. His decade-long tenure at SAP saw him excel as a product owner, ensuring product compliance and managing intricate security requirements. Beyond his corporate achievements, Sasmito is a bootstrapper at heart, single-handedly conceptualizing and launching multiple applications for Apple platforms through his venture, Basil Salad Software. Whether it's challenging the status quo or advocating for the devil, Sasmito's passion for technology and innovation shines through in every endeavor. I've asked him to join us here today to share his story and insights into the mind of this tech maestro. So Sasmito, thank you so much for joining us, my friend. How are you doing?
Thank you. Now that I heard the full treatise, I'm a bit scared of myself now.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to guide us through this whole AI revolution. We'll be looking to people like you for guidance. No, I'm not. I'm optimistic about the future. Before we get into all that, though, I want to know about your background and how you got into this. Are your parents coders? Is this the family? Is this you guys all get together and have, what do they call those? The coding challenges?
No, my parents are not really a coder, although my dad was program a bit. My dad programmed a bit for IBM Minis and
Really?
I guess mainframes. Yeah, so he worked in a hotel. For his entire career, he's a hotelier. From the person who picked up the keys in front desk up to assistant finance manager. Then yeah, in the same company, and that's when he sees that his career went stuck. Then he found how to say he had a rich friend which happens to own a company, and then he became a CEO of another company of that company. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
So
So how did you even get into programming? It's not a small feat to know 10 languages. I think I'm working on 2. Like I got HTML. I think I know some basic P. That's as far as I've gotten so far.
yeah, that is not overnight. That's over a 20-year period. So it's
Right.
not that fast, by the way.
That's why I'm saying. So how did you even get started?
Oh, so my dad gave me this book. It's called Learning Programming for the IBM PC Basic by David A. Lean. David A. Line. David A. Lean. So it was the original ROM basic programming when you need to start programming with line numbers in front, like then print hello world. So that's the simplest language there. You have to provide line numbers in front at 10, 20, 30, 40, like that. And that's when I got started. And that's one. And it's
You
probably few, yeah, yes.
I would say so you started a long time. Your dad gave you this book and what, you just devoured it? It was the most fascinating thing that you read, or you read it because your dad told you to, and like what?
Oh well, it's probably partially fueled because I'm not that great at people.
Okay.
I'm not that great at people, and this computer thing, it's a bit fascinating. Look, I can make computer do things. And before that, I used to create using Lego bricks. So, yeah, my dad was fortunate enough to buy us a few sets of Lego bricks, not many, I mean like 2 or 3 sets. And it's the IBM Basic is like another stepping stone or another version of Lego bricks for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what were
So
some of your early projects?
okay, the biggest my first biggest was a math testing game. So when you can practice addition, subtraction, it's a game where you can practice addition, subtraction, multiplication, and the like. Then I did a mancala. Is it called mancala in the Philippines or something like that?
Hey,
It's a
Mahjong?
tradition. What?
Mahjong?
Not mahjong. Jongklak.
Okay.
So it was a remake of a traditional game where you have 7 beads and you need to pick up a bead and distribute along the route, and the side which have the most beads won, something like that. Yeah, I think the game is still around. If you Google around this game called Dakon Master, yeah, probably you can find it somewhere. Yeah, Dakon Master, Google Dakon Master. Hopefully you can find it. You'll need a DOS emulator to run it if it's still around.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I used to provide as a free download. So yeah,
Okay. And then what?
one day my friend, my crush of the time was having problem with WordStar at the time, and she ruined her diary because of a floppy disk issue. And that inspired me to create a diary writing software. So I made a diary writing software. Probably it's called nowadays a competitor did a much better one called Day One, but this was like 1992, 93. I made a diary
I think I
writing
heard
software.
about that. Day one, you take like a photo a day or
And you
something like
journal,
that.
yeah, you journal your thing. Yeah, I made something similar that's much crappier back then for Windows 3.1.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and publish it in a local software company. Yeah, small traction, but at least that's
Okay. Okay. And then what happened from there? I'm still trying to map out your journey because it sounds like a long way to go from old school textbooks and playing around making games to now making smart city apps and obviously working in a major company like you are with such a prestige kind of position.
I yeah. At that time, programming was really bad for my school grades. So at the time when I scored really bad in school, and therefore my mother really confined me to only weekends in dealing with computers
Okay.
and it's not like my books. Okay, so I could study, and she encouraged. Yeah, and by that time, yeah, after a few years later, I got into a computer school back in Indonesia. So it was the number two computer school of the country at the time. Yeah,
Mm.
number
Mm.
two of the country at the time.
So
Yeah,
your
I
mom
didn't get.
put you in that. Was this because you had an interest in it or because she felt like that's like she had some sort of this is the vision of the future?
For one, my parents really want me to go to I would say, government school, right? Government school, especially the one of the top three government schools, right? And because of that, because I kind of think, yeah, this computer thing probably can become my thing. So I pick the two computer schools there. So there's a number one computer school and number two computer school
Okay.
of the country. Yeah, I failed to get the number one, but I got into number two.
Okay.
And yeah, so by the way, also I also already got the number three computer school enrollment accepted, which was a private university there. But that's the story. The story.
In your journey learning how to code, how to create and ship products, how to manage software development products, because part of the world's been pushed online since the COVID pandemic. Everybody's had a wake up call that, hey, there is an online offline component, but they're both critical. I don't think you can be completely online because at some point, even your data has to be in a server center somewhere, right? But at the same time, you can't necessarily even be completely offline. Even a farmer at this point needs a website or a social media profile. And so for a lot of people that are new to this, trying to navigate it, I'm just curious, what were some of your biggest challenges in your career path in terms of learning the trade and the process of creating and shipping digital products yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Creating and shipping digital products. Yeah, and it's a path. There's no such thing as career path, really. It's like if you know this thing called random walk in Wall Street.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a random walk. You walk around a huge plain with many obstacles, and you try to grab the best option that you can see thus far. By the way, in programming, it's called greedy algorithm. Yeah, and when people say, "Oh, there's a career path," it's a big lie usually. They just look back and they rationalize that it was a path, but
Right.
really there's no path. There's no path. You make your way across a savanna and try to avoid the lions and try to walk from one oasis to the next.
Yeah. I think that's really a really fair and accurate statement. I've been talking to a lot of lately, I've been talking to a lot of kids in university. And one of the things that's come up is a lot of them seem to think that university is going to prepare them for the world. And I've had to tell them, if university can certify you in whatever field you're trying to be certified in, you have no job security because they can go certify and credentialize another 1,000 people right behind you. And so where the security comes from is stacking skill sets in a unique manner that overlap with your passions, ideally. So it's a combined skill set unique to you. And that's something that is unique, almost in a way that apprenticeships used to work, where you couldn't necessarily just go to school. You had to mentor into someone to learn the skill set and really get into the weeds of something. And almost like you're talking about, you learn a skill set and you find this oasis, and then maybe something happens, that oasis dries up, and then you walk through the desert to another one, and you develop these unique gifts and skill sets that hopefully serve you. And that's assuming that you continue to grow, right? Some people, they just get somewhere and they just stay there and they're happy, and bless them if that's what they want. Would you agree with that? Would you add to that?
Oh, would I add to that? Maybe I should reduce that. The thing is that you say, yeah, your passion and your skills, but also you need to keep an eye on market demands and market demands. And the thing is that until we are in the Star Trek era where everything you need is at the press of a button, right? We have to work with the existing system right now, which is capitalism,
Right.
which is we do things for other people. We get money or some kind of currency, and we trade that money to extend our lives one way or
Right.
another. So market
Right.
demand is also very important.
Yeah, that's called ikigai. The ikigai is a Japanese term where your passion, your abilities, and what people will pay you for overlap. You have to figure
Yeah,
out
it's
what you're
very hard
passionate
to find.
about, what you're good at, and what people will pay for. And where those three things intersect, that's your ikigai. That's the thing.
Four
Oh,
things. Four
sorry.
things ikigai. Four things ikigai. But yeah, getting to three is it's hard enough already, right? Uh, Getting to three is hard enough already. I'm still in a two. I'm still in two, not in three. And getting to four is even harder. Yeah, but it's an aspirational framework. But don't kill yourself if you cannot meet all the four dimensions of ikigai.
Let's talk about this, because I think what would you recommend to someone that's either starting out or struggling and either having to go online or develop a tech component? They've never had to deal with programmers. They've never had to make APIs talk to each other. They've never had to sandbox and have staging tiers. They've never had a bunch of users break their graphic user interface. They never had to think about front end, back end, and database, right? What would you recommend to someone starting out or struggling that's going, hey, I know I need, or I have a vision for some sort of software component to what I'm doing? What would you recommend?
From what I see thus far, programming now is like writing 300 years ago. Right, 300 years ago, if you got a writing job, if you can write and read and write well, you're secured for life. Okay. Programming was like that in the 90s, and maybe slightly after .com boom and bust. But it's also going to be like writing now, where look at now, if you cannot read or write, then you're falling behind everyone. You cannot even do the most basic things. Programming will be like that. It'll be like reading and writing. There will still be specialized writers and writers like J.K. Rowling who become very rich, and there are programmers who like Linus Torvalds, the father of Linux, who became quite rich right, by programming. But there will be some specialized programmers and specialized writers nowadays who write TV shows, who write cinemas, and who writes thought-selling books, right?
Right.
But most people will read and write to a certain extent. And for people now, starting now, programming is going to be like that. If you cannot program at all, you're going to get left behind.
And so where do they start? Because there's so many languages and they're constantly evolving. Do they just learn Python? I heard that we're going to build artificial general intelligence on Python.
Yeah, not really. AGI is something else. It's also something else that's going to put many programmers obsolete.
Right.
And that's also what I'm preparing for in case mitigation in case I become obsolete, which is probably soonish, but we'll see. Knock on wood. But yeah, it's I think for today, let's say if you're going to plan to become quote unquote specialist writers who write TV shows and books, or you become a real programmers who programs things for large scale systems, Yeah, Python could be a good start. Python could be a good start. Now there's an upcoming programming language called Rust, which also be a good start if you want to be a serious programmer at the operating system level, right? If you want to be programming big computers, let's say cloud computers, cloud is really just big computers in warehouses. There's no such thing as cloud.
Yeah, all the cloud is someone else's computer.
Yeah,
I-
someone else computers. Yeah,
That's
if you want
right.
to program those kind of computers, big computers in warehouses, then Go could be an option. But if you're planning to say not become a specialist programmer, not become a software engineer of any sort, then today will be Excel will be a good way to start.
Excel,
Excel,
like Excel
Excel,
spreadsheets.
Excel spreadsheets. Making formulas in Excel, right? It's one way to program a computer. And one step beyond that, there's a macro language, there's a real programming language behind Excel that you can also tap if you use the desktop versions of Excel, like Mac and Windows versions of Excel. It's called Visual Basic for Applications. This is one of the things that you can start creating formulas in Excel, programming VBAs in Excel for your day-to-day work, for example. Even for my day-to-day work, I do reconciliation for my bank accounts. So I have my bank statements, right? These are in CSV files, and I have to import it to my personal finance software. And these don't talk to each other because I'm living in the wrong part of the world where no personal finance software can connect to any of my bank accounts. And therefore I have to write some scripts to convert CSV files from what the bank generates, which are not really CSV files in a proper format, into a proper CSV files that my finance software can receive. So this kind of glue are going to be required or needed for many of our people's work.
Did you say R?
Probably
R.
it is.
I'm just confirming because I signed up for a data science course, free one that Google did, and it was like one of the requirements was you had to choose which language you wanted to do it in, and one was R. And I've heard of Ruby on Rails. I know Python, JavaScript, C++. I know all these languages. I've never heard of R before I signed up for that course.
Oh, not R, but RARE.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, RE could be if you're planning to be an economist or statistician, right? The thing is with programming languages, it's not really about the language that's important. For specialists, professional programmers like me, probably can pick up a new language in 3-4 weeks. Most of them are the same. But the thing is, the hard part will be the ecosystem. Beyond the standard, say, okay, this is a function, this is how you do loops, this is how you do decisions, this is how you do classes. Yeah, those are the basics that can be covered in 2-3 weeks by any professional programmers, fine. But the ecosystem, that's the hard part. Like you have libraries upon libraries, and these kind of libraries behave differently. Even the societies behave differently. The people around the language, let's say, for example, how our people behaves and our language, our people behaves, the people in the R ecosystem behaves, the people in the Python ecosystem behaves, the people in the Java ecosystem behaves are vastly different. To be frank, people in the R ecosystems, they are very lax on changing things and breaking other people's software. So yeah, one day I upgrade my R installation, bro, and then stop working. And yeah, that's why I stopped using R for my personal finance software, glue code, and moved to Python. Python break things less.
So Python
people,
is old faithful. It sounds like.
yeah, the people break things less, but still less than R. But if you go further down the spectrum, Java people, they even break things far less. But Java people, they're really strict and stringent. Probably sometimes people they call them the Fortran of the 2000s. COBOL was a programming language that my dad used to write in the 85-ish.
So how does this translate into trying to stay ahead of things? Because there's so many languages, and you talk about the ecosystem, things are proliferating. I know for myself, like I work a lot with people that have membership sites, and now engagement on membership sites is really hard, and there's a bigger push to have apps, but the apps require a whole new It's a whole new tech stack for that. And having your WordPress membership site, and this is just one case, like use case that I'm talking about. But I know that this is a challenge where before it wasn't that big of a deal, but now it's sometimes it's a big hurdle just to get people to log in to a membership site because they're so used to just having an app where they log in once and it's always logged in and it's a one-click the content kind of scenario. Obviously, you can optimize user experience in your website, but you get what I'm saying, right? As things are evolving, if you can take what you have on the web and make it into a really nice functional app, the user engagement is much higher. That's just across the board.
Well, tips for people like you with mostly content, right? Most likely you don't need an app, as in an app that people installed on people's devices. Most likely you don't, unless you need to offer services or functionalities that a website cannot provide. What you probably need will be like a mobile compatible website. Make sure that you have a mode that works well in mobile phones nowadays. Depends on your audience. If you are targeting a US Singapore audience, you probably can target iPhones better,
Right.
which have faster processors and the like. Or if you need to cater for Android, then you'll have a lot of problems because you have to cater for a wider range of processing power and the like. But things that work using a mobile phone of your audience, and for logging in, make sure you could provide those like login with Apple, login with Google things. Those are already taken care of. Make sure if you can provide login with Apple, login with Google, that's all good. So that's the thing. You don't really need an app most of the time unless you have to provide some functionalities that the browser cannot provide.
So then just having them bookmark it is enough.
Oh, there's this thing called a PWA, portable web applications, where it's a set of standards and specs so that your website can look like an app and can be bookmarked like an app, but it's really a website.
Okay.
It's in essence there's a certain standards that you need to meet to have the website workable on a mobile phone, and provide an icon, provide some bookmarks, provide navigation, but you're set if you provide that standard.
And can you speak to a bit about iterating? Because I don't know anyone that's really ever launched anything digitally, whether it's an app or websites or even a paid ad campaign, which is just graphics and text. Nothing I've ever really seen has come out the gate on fire, just perfect as it was. Can you speak to that? Is there a process that you would go through or recommend? Again, I know some people, this is years ago now, but I remember I was in a mastermind group and this guy, it was his turn to be in the hot seat, right? In the middle, telling his problem to the group for the group to offer him advice. And he'd secured $1 million in financing. Their goal was to make Java sites SEO searchable. So this is back in the day, we had text-based sites with graphics and stuff, and then there were these animated sites, right? But you couldn't SEO those. There was no way to really index them well. And he was working on technology to solve that problem. And they had spent something like $950,000 on the tech, and now they had $50,000 for the marketing, and they had no customers, and they were burning cash so fast. And the real answer was you did it backwards. You should have done the marketing and the onboarding of beta users, and then built in public, built for them, and done shorter, faster iterations versus cackling in your office for a year, 2 years, like mad scientists with something that's never been seen by the world. Can you speak to that a little bit in terms of building products that people actually use and find useful? Can you?
Yeah, for building product, you probably need to find a demand first, and then you work backwards. That's good. But the thing is that if you don't have any product, you cannot get exposure easily. And even if you spend a lot of money on advertising like Google ads or Facebook ads or whatnot, it's maybe you just spend a lot of money on advertising and you cannot get any traction, and you cannot get any people on your mailing list, on your list. So that's also a challenge. And if you work in the confines of a large company, to communicate outside the world, you have to go through many layers of approvals and salespeople and whatnot. You cannot even get hold of anybody before. You couldn't even talk to anybody without having them signing you an NDA. And
Right.
it's like getting people to sign you an NDA. It's like, why am I talking to you and signing NDA? So that's a challenge as well.
Right.
So it has to go somewhere hand in hand, probably. You probably to identify a need and develop something small, right? Develop something small and then see if people pay for that. If people pay for that something small, if that gives value to people, and then you can sell it, and then you can at least cover the operating cost for it. Then you can build forward.
What would you say are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people making, whether you're friends or in the company, when it comes to creating software products and putting them out into the world?
I had an ex-boss who became an ex-boss who become an angel investor somewhere, and then, oh, I have this wonderful idea. Let me tell you, bro. Okay, send this NDA. Good luck. Keep your ideas. That's fine. I have my own ideas. Yeah, that happened as well.
So what? He wanted you to sign an NDA?
Hey, yeah, he wanted me to sign an NDA to tell so that he'll tell him his great next big idea. Next big idea.
Ah,
Say, okay, fine. If you want me to become a sounding board, I can do that for you in my spare time. Since he's not working in the company anymore, so I cannot really justify spending too much time for him, right? But no, I'm not going to sign that NDA. Keep your own ideas. I have my
right.
own.
It speaks to me. I remember I've had this come up a lot. Some people, they didn't want to share their business idea because they didn't want it to be stolen. But the reality is the exact opposite, actually. You should be sharing it as much as possible. I'm spiritual and not religious, but I still think this quote is valid. And it goes, don't expect others to understand your grind when God didn't give them your vision. And again, regardless of your spiritual or not, the real secret here is that even if you tell someone your idea and even if they try to rip you off in that, unless they're in the same field, same industry, already headed on that path, that goal, for them to turn their ship around and to have the commitment, the determination, the grit, the passion to try and see this project through, for a lot of this, I think you get what I'm saying? Like in a lot of ways, it's just you actually kill yourself by not letting your idea spread. Memes are an interesting thing because memes are an evolution of thoughts where a meme has to have its own replication built in. What I mean is if I make a funny meme graphic and I share it with you and you laugh, it dies with you. I have to create a meme that you like and you want to share it. It has to have both criteria. It has to have a viral component to it in order. And I can't go, I don't want to share this meme because you might think it's great and share it. And it's that same thing with your business ideas, right? They say the pioneers get the arrows, the settlers get the land. You want to be in a busy marketplace. Speaking to what you were saying, you don't want to think that you're going to be the only one in a market. You want to be at a busy food stop and you want to be the best of all the options there. You don't want to be in a desert with this nice fancy restaurant and no one around to buy from you. So it's this idea of, like you said, that hiding your ideas can just cause them to die in silence. The business graveyard is littered with world-class products and services nobody knew about. It's that whole Zen koan. If a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound, right? If you have the world's greatest idea, but nobody hears it, yeah.
Yeah, but there's one big exception. If you work in a Fortune 500 company where the company pays you for ideas, you go for that first before you talk.
But you still have to go share it. There's people that are paying you. You need to share it with them.
Yeah, but they will have a process saying that, okay, you describe your idea in a certain way, and then you make sure that the idea is really new, and then that will go through a pipeline, and that pipeline is usually rather secretive. Once they filed a US patent for it, then you can talk.
Right. Yes. That part perhaps is true. Fair enough. Touche. And so
And
where
that's
do
how
you
I
see
got my 8 patents.
no, it's fine. Where do you see the future of this stuff going? Like in 5 years, 10 years, what do you see
Of
being
what
the
stuff?
top trends and things that small and medium-sized business owners need to be aware of?
Top trends, small. You can get a cheap intern by hiring ChatGPT or its competitor. That's one.
Right.
Yeah, by hiring ChatGPT and its competitor, you can get a cheap intern. That's one. There will be more integrations, and the deep fake thing is going to be very dangerous. So be careful of that. I'm not sure how it will turn like. Yeah. So those are the two things that I see right now on AI. It's dangerous. It's going to take many jobs. So that's for sure. It's going to take away many jobs. It's going to reduce the demand for many jobs, but it will also create the demand for other jobs. Not that different than the steam engine and the looming,
Yeah, the
the
loom
thing that the
and the printing
loom
press for
and the
newspapers.
printing press for newspaper.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's happening at a more rapid pace nowadays. Like if you subscribe to ChatGPT, right, you can get an intern that can create you with a nice paper within minutes. Is the paper
Right.
any good? Or is the paper original? No, paper's not original. Paper any good? Not really, but hey, it's
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, it's better than starting with a blank page. I liken it to calculators and accountants and bookkeepers. That before calculators, accountants and bookkeepers would have to do the math themselves, and the productive people were productive, and the non-productive people had excuses for why it took them 7 days to do 2 + 2 = 4. And then calculators came out, and the productive people became more productive, and the non-productive people lost their excuse for why it was taking them so long, and they were just outmatched by the people that were more passionate, more excellent at and they had to find new careers or evolve, right? They had to move on and find something new, or they had to evolve and keep up. And I feel like this is it. Even right now, I read a great book, actually the meme thing that I said about memes having to replicate themselves. That comes from David Deutsch, the godfather of quantum computing. He wrote a book called The Beginning of Infinity. And I just had a brain fart where I was going with that.
Yeah, quantum computing is also the thing that I fear that will make me obsolete.
Oh, the idea that we're a long ways away from real world sentient artificial intelligence.
Yeah, but quantum computing is already here.
Right.
It's already here, and you can hire a quantum computer, right? There's one in the UK, I believe. You can hire it. You can hire it for some money, for do some quantum work, and there's another one it's being set up in Poland, I believe. And yeah, those are quantum computers. My biggest fear on quantum computers is that the foundations of programming it are very different, and that's one of my biggest fear.
What do you mean?
Personally, okay, the computers nowadays that you use to talk with me are called binary computers. Its function is mostly derived on the work of one person called George Boole, which is the Boolean algebra. If this is true and this is true, and
Right.
you have operation like true is true, and true is true, and false is false.
Right.
George Boole, right?
Yep.
George Boole. So you couldn't use a binary computer, right?
Ones and zeros, but now we have qubits.
Billions of ones and zeros, and those are based on the work of George Boole and others, and George Boole and Alan Turing and others. And quantum is something totally different. And I still haven't been able to figure it out.
My understanding is it's almost like the multiverse. So what that means is that through quantum computing, you can have multiple states of existence at once focused on the same problem. So that is almost like if I drop a pebble into a pond, I get all these ripples of water coming out from it. And all these ripples represent different directions that the wave could go in. And so as you pass through time, or maybe you go time more than one direction, there's a ripple effect. So right now, you and I had this meeting in another universe. We didn't have the meeting. In another universe, we had the meeting and our internet cut off. Another meeting, I showed up wearing a pink hat. Another universe, you showed up wearing a green hat. And we have all these different potentialities, and you play them out, and you have a chosen beginning and an end point. And by the time you get from the beginning to the end point, it all collapses into almost like the most statistically significant signal to noise ratio. That's how I understand where you can, the value of quantum computing is that you can compute 1,000 potentialities of a situation. It almost just does, it's got built-in statistical analysis, where computers now are 2 + 2 = 4. But this, you could do 2 to the power of 2 + 2 to the power of 7 = what? And then and it just depends on what the output goal is that you're after. And so the focus of what you're trying to compute becomes even more important. It's a whole, I think it's the same age-old question. It's the quality of life depends on the quality of the questions you ask yourself. And I think it's going to be the same with quantum computing, which now would steer this conversation in the direction of pursuing the truths of the universe versus governing people and censoring ideas we don't like, because that becomes incredibly dangerous. Whereas we don't seek out and slaughter all the monkeys. because that's not what we're about. We might displace and kill some, sure, in our own goals and progress, but that's not our intent. Whereas if you write a software program to censor and deplatform or suppress things, it will become like a killer bot, hunting those out and killing them. And this is where we need to have the conversation of what values are our systems built upon and what is the ultimate end goal. And sorry, I didn't know the conversation was going to go this way.
Yeah.
That's a big part. Yeah.
Yes, important direction. And my opinion is that regulation will not work to curtail those things.
Right.
Because there's always going to be a government, city-state somewhere, or maybe some set of people in a boat somewhere that's beyond any boundaries that do these things.
100%. In the real world, we have natural law, right? I look outside my window when I was a kid, and I remember seeing the squirrels. I had a school break, and I think my parents were asking me to do some chores or something. I was like, I don't want to. It's the weekend. And I remember looking outside, seeing squirrels, and I realized, oh, they don't get a weekend. They can't be like, hey, cat, it's my holiday. I'm having a mental health day. Can you come back tomorrow? So there is like a real bare bone structure to the universe. I think a lot of these spiritual leaders and enlightened ones who supposedly achieve enlightenment, they're like, if and when you achieve enlightenment, guess what? You still need to chop wood and carry water. And we still need to do we achieve quantum computing, we achieve sentient AI. Great. As far as we're concerned, we still need food, we still need water, we still need shelter. Our bodies still fuel or off certain things. Sure, we can maybe develop all this technology, synthetic bodies, blah, blah, blah. But that's so far. And what happens if it goes wrong? And now we're de-evolving. At the end of the day, you still need to chop wood and carry water while we solve the problems in front of us. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I guess it comes back to goals and outcomes.
Yeah. The nice thing about modern society is that the invention of money allows you to get someone else to chop wood and carry water.
Yes. It's a trade. It's a store of value. It's a way to say, hey, I did this work before. I helped these people. It's that reciprocity. I said this to my daughter today. I always tell her about the story of the little red hen. And the story of the little red hen is the little red hen. It's this kid's book. Little red hen says, hey, who's going to help me plant this wheat? And all the farm animals are like, not I, not I. So the hen does it. And then the red hen says, hey, who's going to help me water and pull the weeds? And all the other animals say, not I, not I. And the hen does it. And the hen says, hey, who's going to help me harvest the wheat? And all the other animals say, not I, not I. And she goes, hey, who's going to help me take this wheat to the mill? And all the animals say, not I. And she gets it ground in the mill. Hey, who's going to help me turn this flour into bread? Not I, not I. And then she bakes the bread and goes, hey, who's going to help me eat it? And they're all like, I will. And the hen goes, no, you won't. I did it all. And the hen eats it to herself. And I always tell that story to my daughter. That's what our species is built on, that I would maybe grow and create the bread and you would make the strawberry jam. And then you would go, hey, can I have some bread? And I would go, what do you have? And you'd say, oh, I have some strawberry jam. And we would share together. But maybe I don't want your strawberry jam. And so you have to find someone that wants it and get a unit of value to get my bread. And that's what it was supposed to be of. But now we have central banking systems that have turned this into a means of power and control. And
yeah, that's something else as well.
Yeah, but it's a real thing. And as a species, we're going to work through all these issues at some point, or we're not. We're either going to enter another dark ages, or we're going to break through and almost like a sperm bursting through the shell of the egg, we're going to transform into something greater and evolve.
Or both, different parts of the world.
Yeah, breakaway civilizations. We had a first and third world, right? Where the quality of life and life expectancy extended in the first world before it did the third world. So in some ways we had different, it's a very interesting concept. Interesting concept. Yeah. Sasmito, this has been a very interesting call. I've got a couple pages of notes here. So we talked, just to recap on some of this stuff. You told us about your story. You told us about starting with games, and growing your skills and developing products and working your way up the corporate ladder. You talked about how Python and Rust and learning Excel spreadsheet formulas is a great foundation for anyone that's trying to get into this. That if someone's they also have to learn about the ecosystem, that learning the language is one thing, but the ecosystem of everything, how it interplays, is even more important. And that maybe you don't even necessarily need, I thought this was really smart, that you don't need to worry about having the latest flashy thing. You don't need an app. What you really need is to make sure it can whatever you have can perform on the tools that the people have. So you talked about PWAs, portable web applications, that you don't need an app. You just need to have your stuff almost, yeah, you have to have your stuff format that. And you also talked about focusing on the demand first and what the people want and building for them and having some sort of minimal viable product and then building from there and almost letting the people guide you. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's quite accurate.
Yeah, okay. Now, is there anything I haven't asked you that I should have asked you?
I don't know. I don't know. That you tell me.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. So what are you going to do with this information, for example?
Me?
Yeah.
I enjoy the insights because it's supposed to be your interview, not mine. But I'm even right now, I'm helping. So I have a potential partnership that could turn into literally hundreds of clients for a program that I have. But part of the deal was in order to have this sort of official strategic partnership with them, I need to help them get a project off the ground here. So we've got a 3-month project where I'm a fractional manager, you could say, for it, to oversee just getting the core members here. I'm in the Philippines. We've got 5 staff here and they need to have 2 pillar staff that they can build this facility around. And so I'm just here. They already have a leader. I'm just here to be boots on ground and supervise them. But even in still, I've already today, I talked to 2 of my programmers about how to automate a lot of the things that I'm having to do for this. Maybe just call me a lazy coder, but just for the sake of, I'm not trying to work 12-hour days, 6 days a week. I'm trying to solve problems better and better. So what am I going to do with it? I'm going to think about how to take what I've got and make it more compatible, not necessarily have to worry about rebuilding anything or everything. I'm going to double down on the demand and the needs of people and do more end user interviews. Probably. I'm going to take another look at Excel spreadsheets. I did not expect that. I did not expect that. That really caught me off guard. Because I hire coders and I know what I want and I can do, forgive me, this is supposed to be your interview, but I've done a lot with marketing automation software that I know about APIs. I know about small scripts. I know about setting up web pages, do fancy functions. I know some HTML and like I said, and I thought at some point I was going to really have to dive in and commit to learning some code if I'm going to have more and more software in that. But from what I heard from you, it almost sounds like I don't even need to necessarily worry about the language, the principles, sure. It's almost like a way of thinking. That's what came across. That's more important than the language you choose.
The language you choose, it depends on what you want to do with it. It goes from what you want to do, then you pick the ecosystem, then you pick the language. Of course, that's after you master a language.
Outcome, ecosystem, language. That's great.
Yeah, that's after you're able to program in a language,
which is more about understanding the thought process, right?
Yes, thought process.
Yeah, that's powerful. Reading between the lines, there is some really good stuff here. And then also you talked about the login with Apple and Google. To me, that's don't reinvent the wheel. If something's free and easy, use it.
Yeah.
We talk about that on the show a lot. OPR, OPM, OPC, other people's resources, other people's money, other people's customers, which is this partnership I mentioned. This is a company that's got 40 locations around the world. Most of them are non-English, and they set up their first office in New York, and they want to expand and have 8 more. And if they would be contractually obligated to promote my program to their entire database once a month, at least the non-active customers, the non-new and recently, but all their lost leads, all their past customers, I help them with this. So OPC, other people's customers, other people's resources, use the Apple and Google login, right?
Yeah.
Other people's money. I don't have to pay for those servers and tools to have that up. So that's what I got from what you said, reading between the lines there.
So yeah, so how do you want people to find me?
Yeah, Sasmito, I was about to ask that. If people want to reach out, is LinkedIn the best way?
LinkedIn is the best. It's the second best way. The first best way will be to subscribe to my blog.
Okay, and let's grab your link
and say hi to me. I read every invite, every confirmation. I read every confirmation, and that goes through all my spam filter because it comes from MailChimp.
Got it.
And then if you want to talk, that's one. That's the second. The LinkedIn will be the second best thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and my blog will be the easiest way you can do because you don't have to go through LinkedIn. Just confirm to MailChimp and then say hi there, or what you want to talk about, and I'll read it.
Is that basilsalad.com, your blog?
Yeah, so Basil Salad is the
IndieSpark.top.
yeah, Basil Salad is the how to say end user portion, just say, my Talk to Muggles blog.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it.
If you ever read Harry Potter, it's called Talk to Muggles blog. Just visit that.com.
So
Indispark.top is for yeah. If you're a wizard, then go to this site.
So check out indiespark.top, INDIESPARK.top, TOP. You can also check out basilsalad.com, BASILSALAD.com. And you can look them up on Twitter and LinkedIn. Sasmito, SASMITO, Adibowo, ADIBOWO. Sasmito, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an honor and a pleasure. Knowing that you have your own direct reports, your own projects. Thank you for coming and sharing with my audience and I. So hopefully we can navigate this tech world a little bit better.
Thank you. Thank you for your time too.